Hey, what's up, Internet? I just got done watching the EA press conference at Gamescom, and man, they had some fucking awesome games they're talking about releasing. I mean, Titanfall was probably my favorite as far as how it looked. The graphics, the physics in that, it just looks awesome. And they did announce some new stuff for Titanfall as well. And they did show some interesting gameplay footage. One of the things I noticed and that I really liked was they had this kind of scene in the gameplay footage where you enter your mech suit and you're kind of fighting, and you're fighting another mech suit, and after you beat it up pretty badly, the guy rips the door to the other mech suit open and grabs the actual person that's in the mech out and just tosses him like a rag doll, man. It just looked badass. Yeah, so Titanfall got what I think was the best kind of response from the crowd. There's a lot of cheering. It was kind of tied up there with Battlefield 4, which they announced some new stuff for as well. But some of it was great. Some of it was kind of awkward. And that brings me to Plants vs. Zombies. When they did this, they had this guy, Peter Lemur, come out. He's one of the lead developers or whatever. He did not connect with the crowd. He seemed really awkward. He was dressed really douchey, like unbuttoned, kind of half-buttoned, no tie, buttoned down with like a sports jacket, and he kind of just had this air about him, just like a douchebaggy kind of, like, it honestly didn't even seem like he cared about video games, which was kind of a turnoff. And it's kind of unfortunate because the actual Plants vs. Zombies stuff that they released looked really interesting. It uses the same engine that Battlefield 4 uses. So they announced their like little garden center first-person shooter, or whatever the hell you want to call it for PvZ. And it actually looked quite interesting. It had a mode where you could do like 24-person multiplayer, which obviously isn't up to like Battlefield standards. And the graphics were cartoony as you'd expect, kind of Invader Zim-ish, graphics. But it looked good. It looked like a fun game. I think it's definitely something we're all going to try out. I think we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to Titanfall, Battlefield 4 we're looking forward to, and they just had some great information available. Some of the kind of middle-of-the-pack titles that were released, I mean, they're all obviously AAA titles, but some of the ones that I am definitely interested in playing but didn't seem to get as good of a crowd reaction was Command & Conquer. They did this kind of awkward, like, let's see which one of the developers is the best player, kind of like standoff. And you could tell it was kind of scripted, and they did try to do some audience participation. They handed out these little cards, and if your guy won, whatever side you picked won, you'd get like some free beer and pretzels afterwards, which is cool. And they did seem like a really enthusiastic company, but the presentation was just a bit off. Like, you could tell these guys were trying to oversell it, But hey, it's a Command & Conquer title, so at the end of the day, I think everybody's probably going to at least try it. It's a pretty awesome looking game. They're still including features like selling structures, trying to recoup resources, which is something StarCraft lacks. Unless you cancel the building during construction, you can't sell it back. It's one of the things I like about Command & Conquer. You can sell it back, get your money back. It's kind of adds a little bit of an extra strategic element to it. And the strategy in Command & Conquer was actually pretty solid. They showed some like things that you don't really see in like a StarCraft type title, which is, some of the units have like a blinding capability, so you can, if you have like slower units and you need to close the gap, or even if you're just coming up on a much more, something where you just need a gap closer, they have that, which is good to see in that type of video game. Another title that looked really interesting too was some of the information they dropped about Dragon Age Inquisitor. So it's got a really interactive environment. There's a lot of places to explore apparently. You can look under bushes, kind of like how back, I don't know, it's not obviously a similar game, but if you remember in Diablo 3 back when like breaking vases was actually exciting, it seems like they're trying to incorporate some environmental things like that where like there's an actual benefit to doing stuff in the game. Another thing they talked about too was how you're actually starting off as the Inquisitor, and this Inquisitor comes along with rights and power. It's a title. You can kind of control people and make decisions for them. And it actually kind of reminded me of kind of like that, I don't know if you remember the old game, well, obviously you do remember it, but Black and White, where you were kind of a newly born god, and it kind of seemed like they were playing off that a little bit. It was like a little spin-off on that, like you can save this village, you can't, your decisions affect the outcome of the game. So for a Dragon Age title, it's actually looking pretty solid, and that's something I would definitely recommend picking up. So those were the titles that kind of got me actually really excited. Some of the ones that I kind of looked at, and I actually touched on one of them already, but I was kind of like, okay, who gives a shit, was like FIFA. Okay, and they announced all these different things. They actually spent a pretty disproportionate amount of time, I think, on FIFA as part of their EA Sports package, which, I know soccer is the most popular sport in the world, as far, look at it from a global sense, and they're in Germany, and so it made sense what they did, but it didn't really appeal to me, and I don't think it would appeal to most of the American audience. I feel like people who say they enjoy soccer are just lying to look like European and cool. Like, I know you don't enjoy soccer. You're full of crap. You're just watching it because, you're trying to look awesome. And if you like soccer legitimately, hopefully that really offended you because I hate soccer, and I probably don't like you anyways. But yeah, they announced some kind of like thing where it was going to be free to play on mobile. You could do like free to play apps or like some like global initiative thing where it was like, oh, well, it's going to be free to play and we're going to do FIFA World and we're going to release it in Russia and Brazil. It's like, yeah, okay, next. But that was the thing they kind of finished on, so there wasn't really a next. But one of the games I wanted to be excited about, but just wasn't, was the UFC title. I actually love UFC. I love watching it. I've tried playing the games before. I just can't get into them, especially for console games. It always felt clunky. And they did a lot to kind of improve that. Like, I remember in the old games, you used to like slide around a little bit, and there's a lot of extraneous movement. They kind of tightened up the movement, and the striking looked awesome. Everything looked hard hitting. It looked a lot more realistic. Like the facial expressions, and it looked like there was more effort being put forth by the in-game characters. But it's, at the end of the day, it's just, I've played the games before. I don't find them to be exciting titles. So if you're a fan of that genre, you should probably check it out because it's probably going to be one of the best UFC games ever made. But, not for me. They also talked about Sims 4 and some of the things they were doing with that. And it's one of those games where it's just like, Sims 4? I remember playing The Sims when it came out. I think it was like the late 90s, 2000-ish, time frame. Yeah, I remember playing Sims, the original version, and it was fun. I remember wasting several hours of my life living somebody else's fake life. But you know what? I got over it. And once I got over it, Sims 2 wasn't dragging me back. Sims 3 wasn't dragging me back. And Sims 4 is definitely not going to be dragging me back. If you're a fan of Sims and you've played every expansion, it does look like they added some cool things. It looks like your environment can affect your emotions, and then your emotions in turn affect the story outcome, and different things. And they made it a lot more interactive, it looks like, which is good for any Sim title, especially Sims. But I don't know, man. I can't really wrap my head around a Sims 4 title right now. It's just like it's definitely not something I'm gonna be trying out. Let's leave it at that. You're talking about fucking Titanfall, Battlefield 4. All types of other awesome shit coming out. I'm gonna fucking play Sims 4. Yeah, I'm not 8, so that's not gonna fucking happen. The other game they released that I'm sure I'll probably catch a lot of flack for, but is Need for Speed Rivals. It's more like Need for who gives a fuck. I don't care. It's a racing title. There's so many racing titles that are, you design a car really well and then you race it around. What are you doing that's different from anybody else's shit? It's a racing game. I get it. Need for Speed takes it above and beyond. Look at new shit. Okay. Dude, I don't care. Need for Speed, I'm not picking it up. If you like racing games, hey, pick it up. It might be fun, but I wouldn't recommend it, especially based on what I saw. I mean, the graphics look great, but dude, it's a fucking racing game. I mean, you need to either be blowing shit up or immersing yourself into a fantasy world. And I mean, I guess you can blow up other cars, but it's not as awesome as a first-person shooter. It's just a genre I tend to stick away from because it's not really my steez. So, but hey, whatever, man. You might like it. I kind of want to really touch quick again on Battlefield 4 and Plants vs. Zombies before I go. They share the same game engine, which is odd. There's a UPS truck driving by my house. That's fucking extremely distracting. But yeah, in any event, they share the same engine. And it's just so cool to see how they utilize it so differently. PvZ is this kind of cartoony, more like Ratchet and Clank, style with like the goofy guns and shit. And you can play as a zombie now in the Garden Warfare version of the game. And then you look at Battlefield and it's just so realistic. And some of the things they talked about in Battlefield 4, which I want to touch on real quick, are some of the different like map immersion. They did this thing called Levolution, where it's like map leveling, and they were talking about how like even just from like the minor aspects of the game, you can shut doors and use the environment to your advantage. Like you can interact with a button which will shut a door to like a parking garage so people can't shoot in at you. It gives you like a little break. You can throw flashbangs into train cars and shut the door so it's like more of an effect and stuff. And they're saying it's a much more interactive. And then they say it goes all the way up to the grand scale where you can flood an entire map with water, or blow down fucking skyscrapers with a tank and stuff, and just everything in between. Shutting off the lights and using your night vision. So Battlefield 4 looks truly amazing, and it was just really cool to kind of juxtapose PvZ Garden Warfare with Battlefield 4. And another thing I noticed too, which I wanted to touch on, was PvZ and a couple of other games, they had kind of this Microsoft exclusivity thing where this game mode's only going to be available on the Xbox One, which I understand, especially in the console market, that's one of the driving decisions behind consoles is you want to make sure you corner the market on something so people buy your console versus the other console. I'm sure in the long run, normally I would have just gotten both. I would have gotten an Xbox and a PlayStation. But I'm not getting a friggin' Xbox. I'm not getting an Xbox One. And I know the community was divided on this a while back. There was some kind of like things about the Kinect built-in feature. It's kind of creepy because the camera was always on and stuff. But, at the end of the day, I'm not like the most principled guy on the planet. But, dude, Microsoft, you showed your hand. And yeah, you backed off in the end. But too little, too late, man. Like, you made it right, not because you listened to the fans, but because you were losing pre-order sales. You weren't trying to do the right thing. You were trying to protect your bottom line. And if you thought that you could get away with that and still have a really good sales, for when you release your console, I guarantee Microsoft, you will do the same shit on the Xbox 2 or whatever the fuck it's going to be called when they come up with their next gen title 10 years from now, 8 years from now, whatever it's going to be, and I just find that disrespectful. Now, I'm not saying PlayStation is not a giant corporation and Sony might not also try that at some point, but they didn't try it this time around, and they haven't shown publicly that they had that kind of DB douchebaggy kind of mentality about them. So, I'm sorry guys, but for consoles, I'm sticking with PlayStation. I know it's like a divided thing, and some people are totally over it. They're like, hey, Microsoft fixed it. I'm not one of those guys, man. I don't give a shit if they fixed it. Like, you pissed me off, and you're not going to then unpiss me off with what is clearly see-throughable as a bullshit move. But anyways, that's my little Xbox One rant. The other thing I wanted to talk about too is the new Origin store, which is kind of like EA's version of like Steam store. They have a 7-day guarantee on their digital purchases and on their anything you buy through the Origin store, you can return within 7 days. And this is really awesome. I love seeing somebody bring something like this to the market. Cause, dude, we've all been there. We've gone to Best Buy or GameStop or some shit, and they give you shit when you bring your thing back cause you open the disc, or maybe it's not a new game anymore, returning software has always been a pain in the ass, and it didn't used to be that way. So I like that people are kind of throwing back to like, this is a product. If you buy it and it's pure shit or you don't like it, like we all remember that, like, what was that game, War Z or something that was like the DayZ knockoff that turned out to be fucking horrible. How many people wanted to return that shit? You know what I'm saying? But and I guess a lot of people actually did because that was super bad, but it takes the guesswork out of the equation. It's a guarantee you have 7 days to return your shit. So, hey, that's a fucking solid move on EA's part. And I'm all about gaming companies doing what's right for the gamer. Anyways, I'm gonna check out the PlayStation thing now too. I just checked out the EA thing. PlayStation's having a press conference. I had a little snafu where my muffler just fell off my fucking van, so I was scraping down the road. So I'm a little behind on that, but we are going to be doing a PlayStation specific vlog at some point here. So come back and check that out. And hey, thanks for watching, guys. We really appreciate every time you guys watch and view our shit, because we love everybody on the internet, and the internet's the greatest place in the world. And I love you specifically I love you. I love you. I love you.